Okay, let's dive in. Something massive is happening in global education right now. It's a huge story about technology, national ambition, and a really bold experiment that could completely change how an entire generation learns.
And really, it all kicks off with this quote from El Salvador's president, Nayib Bukele. Now, this isn't just some political soundbite, it's the mission statement for a huge national bet that's putting his country right at the epicenter of the AI revolution in education.
So, what is this big gamble we're talking about? Well, it's not a small tweak. It's a complete, top-to-bottom redesign of the country's entire public school system, all built around one incredibly powerful piece of tech.
Get this. On December 11th, 2025, XAI and the government of El Salvador announced this landmark partnership. And their goal is frankly audacious. They want to deploy the AI model Grok as a personal tutor for every single public school student. And the timeline? A nationwide rollout in just 2 years. This is the world's first national-scale AI education system.
This scale here is just staggering. We're talking about 1.3 million students. That's across more than 5,000 schools, everywhere from the big cities to the most remote villages. It's this sheer scale that makes the whole project so potentially transformational.
And here's the most important part to understand. This is not a pilot program. It's not a small test case. It's a complete overhaul, what you might call educational leapfrogging. El Salvador is trying to skip all the intermediate steps and jump straight to an AI native model for the entire country.
Okay, so what does this actually look like inside a classroom, right? How does having an AI tutor really change the fundamental dynamic between a teacher and a student?
Well, here's the core problem it's trying to solve. You know how in a traditional classroom, a teacher has to teach to the middle? They aim for the average student, which means some kids get bored and others get left behind. In an AI native system, that all changes. The instruction adapts to you. If you're a fast learner, it speeds up. If you're struggling, it slows down. It goes back over things. It tries explaining them in a new way.
Now, this does not mean teachers are being replaced. Far from it. The AI is designed to act as an instructional co-processor. Think of it like a powerful assistant that's there to augment the human teacher, not make them obsolete.
And this breaks down that division of labor perfectly. Grok handles all the heavy lifting, the endless repetition, the personalized practice problems, the instant feedback on a math question. And what does that do? It frees up teachers to focus on the things that are uniquely human. The mentorship, sparking creativity, giving emotional support, and guiding those really important ethical discussions. It's like a load balancing strategy for the classroom.
So this begs a huge question. El Salvador's move is incredibly bold, but are they the only ones making this kind of bet? The answer is absolutely not.
In fact, what we're actually seeing is the start of a new global race. Nations all over the world are scrambling to figure out how to bring AI into their schools, but, and this is the interesting part, they're all taking very different approaches to get there.
You can basically group the strategies into 3 main buckets. First, you've got AI literacy. This is what countries like Finland are doing, focusing on teaching everyone about AI. Then you have AI augmentation. Think Estonia, where they're giving teachers and students a whole toolbox of AI assistance. And finally, you have the AI native approach, which is where El Salvador is, making AI the absolute core of how teaching happens.
This global competition is leading to these fascinatingly distinct blueprints for the future of education. Each one has a totally different philosophy, architecture, and really a different level of ambition. This table gives us a fantastic snapshot. You've got El Salvador going all in on one unified model. Then there's Estonia, creating this federated classroom with a toolbox of different AIs. China is treating AI knowledge as a mandatory national competency, like math or science. Singapore is building a carefully governed cognitive partner. And the US? It's this big, decentralized ecosystem of state-level experiments and private companies.
And the differences in scale are just as dramatic. Look at China's rollout. It's a massive national mobilization, hitting over 200,000 schools. Compare that to Estonia's much smaller, more agile pilot with about 20,000 students, or Singapore's meticulously planned system for 360,000. Each approach tells you something about that country's priorities. Is it about immediate scale, careful experimentation, or system-wide unity?
But here's where Singapore has a really interesting edge. They've put ethics right at the front and center. They've actually built a formal ethics framework and national tools like AI Verify. For them, it's not just about rolling this out fast.
It's about building long-term, sustainable trust in the entire system from day one.
The US model, on the other hand, is all about decentralized innovation. You got federal frameworks that act as guardrails, but the real energy is happening in state-level experiments and huge commitments from the private sector. It's less of a single national plan and more of a sprawling, competitive, and sometimes messy ecosystem.
So we've seen all these different models. What's the big takeaway here? What are the really profound implications when a technology like this enters the classroom on a global scale?
This sentence right here, this gets to the absolute heart of the revolution. For the first time in human history, we have intelligence that can scale to millions of people, just like a website, but at the same time, adapt to each person individually, like a one-on-one tutor. That has simply never been possible before.
And that changes everything. For all of history, a high-quality education has been a scarce resource. It's been a bottleneck, limited by the number of great teachers we have. This new model has the potential to turn education into an accelerant, something more like a public utility, like electricity or clean water, that's just available to everyone to power their own potential.
Ultimately, what you have to realize is that these national experiments are about so much more than just boosting test scores. They are actively shaping the cognitive character of entire generations. The classroom, once again, is the frontier where the future of nations, and maybe humanity itself, is being quietly decided.
And that leaves us with one last, really profound thought to chew on. If we actually pull this off, if we can make a high-quality, personalized education an abundant resource for every single child on this planet, what does that unlock? If education stops being the great bottleneck, what does humanity become?